We have some other stories that we're following for you, politically speaking, of course, on our political roundup.
The governors and other stakeholders in the Southeast region have adopted the community policing as an effective tool and strategy to bring policing to the people of the region. They were speaking at the 2020 Southeast Security Summit organized by the Nigerian Police to discuss strategic partnership for effective community policing in the Southeast geopolitical zones. According to them, the Community Policing Committee, which is made up of traditional, religious and community leaders, amongst others, will be charged with the responsibility of selecting and recruiting community policing officers, amongst other resolutions. To what was supposed to be a heavy clash between PDP and APC supporters in Imo State was averted today by the men of the Department of State Services, DSS, following a protest by some PDP members and some prominent Imo indigents led by popular socialite and celebrity Charles Oputa, also known as Charlie Boy. The protesters in their numbers gathered at the Ekwema Crescent in Owerri, the Imo State capital, calling on the Supreme Court to do the needful and reverse the alleged justice meted on the people of the state by sacking Emeka Ihedioha as governor. They maintain that the protest will continue until justice prevails. For what it called frivolous request for an adjournment in the trial of the convener of #RevolutionNow, Omoyele Sowore, a federal high court in Abuja has awarded 200,000 naira cost against the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami. The prosecutor had requested an adjournment on the ground that the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation has filed amended charges which is yet to be served on the defendants. But the judge, Justice Ijoma Ojukwu, rejected the excuse, saying it was frivolous and uncalled for. She then slammed the 200,000 naira cost against the prosecution and asked government to show evidence of payment of the fine by the next adjourned date.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's dive straight into it this evening. Are you ready? Because tonight, we're digging deep into some issues that are burdening the mind, especially if you are a Lagos resident. Get a seat to get an understanding of some of the major issues that concern you. You've gone on Twitter, you've gone on Facebook, and you're hearing a lot of the issues in Lagos for the past few weeks. So, the past weeks, there have been a series of controversies and reactions on the actions of the Lagos government on the placement of restriction and or what a lot of people call ban. What the Lagos government says is a restriction on motorcycle and tricycle movement in some major roads around the state. The government says it has its reasons for the action. You will probably think that is the only issue or problem Lagosians face in Lagos, considering the backlash over the government's action. But the economy issue is there, security is there, traffic situation, and all other issues are confronting Lagosians. Tonight, we shall be looking at some of the issues, and I have joining me in our studio here in Lagos, the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Obafemi Hamzat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of people perhaps thought that when your servant, Governor Sanwo, came into office, the first thing you did is to bring up a law to restrict or ban Okada riders. I guess it's a misconception. True or false?
Well, I mean, it is a misconception. The truth of the matter is it's a law that's been in existence since 2012. It was revised by the past administration in 2018. So it's a law that has been there for like 9-10 years. So what it says very clearly is that on certain roads, all the bridges and major highways, Okada and Keke Napep are restricted from plying those. So we all know that it was not implemented. So what we are doing is to implement the law that the House of Assembly passed. And remember, the process of passing a law, it takes days. So people came. And before we did that, it's not that we just woke up and just banned it. So it's about security of lives. We have 27 general hospitals in Lagos, 27 general hospitals. We have close to 3,000 private hospitals, but let's look at just the general hospitals. On the average, on a monthly basis, on the average, 28 deaths related to Okada.
Wow.
So we cannot as a government. So is it that people's life don't matter?
These accidents related
To Okada directly.
for a lot of people who perhaps are wondering what Okada is. Okada is
the
a motorcycle,
the motorcycle,
and
yes.
the keke is the tricycle.
tricycle, yes.
So yeah, so on the average, monthly in Lagos,
yes,
at almost 30 deaths.
General hospitals.
Just one in the general hospitals in Lagos.
We have 27 of them.
And these are related to just motorcycles.
Just motorcycles. So, and then issue of crime. So we now found out that the tricycle and the Okada now is now the vehicle for transporting drugs even to our schools. So the security of our lives, the prosperity of our children, we cannot just ignore it.
So this is an intelligence
of course,
gotten from the security agencies.
Exactly. NDLEA is a federal agency. It's not government, Lagos State government agency. The report is clear. So we cannot, as a state government, see this data and say it's not important. So the essence, first of all, is to make sure that everybody that resides in Lagos is secure. And then we said, look, how can we do this in a manageable way? The essence is not to punish anybody. The essence is not to restrict people from doing any job. But you have to be alive before you can make money. The reality is people are dying. The reality is the security of our children is being compromised. So government must act, and that's exactly what we did.
Is it
in
true?
The interest of the people.
Is it true, Deputy Governor? We are hearing also, because there was an incident on the 30th of August 2019, where a truck load of motorcycles and about 300 people was apprehended in Lagos. And the police at that moment arrested them and took them and interrogated them. A lot of them said they were looking for greener pasture. At that time, there were rumors around town that there were influx of Boko Haram or some terrorist element into Lagos. Could there be any iota of truth in some of the fact that the action of government is related into reducing or curbing or chasing out terrorists out of Lagos?
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is this mode of transportation is becoming avenue to perpetuate crime. And then we cannot wait until major disaster happens. So we know what happened in Kano State some years back when the emir of Kano was attacked through this mode of transportation. So is it that our lives are not important? Our lives are important. And therefore, so that particular incident that you mentioned, yes, it is true. But all the police commissioner then did was to say, let's even know who these people are, where they're coming from. There are some people that had knives. There are some people that had guns. So if you are interested in riding the Okada, why do you need a gun? Why do you need a knife? So those people that had, not every one of them, but those that had were arrested, and then of course they will be prosecuted.
So it was an issue of security.
It is mainly about security and safety. It is about security and safety. It is becoming a problem in our major cities. People, 6 a.m., we get the calls. We will have an emergency control center where people actually call in on a daily basis. Attacks, people going to work through Okada, they are being harassed. So we cannot, the data was overwhelming for us. We must act, and that's exactly what we did, to protect people of Lagos. Because remember, like I said, you must be alive to do anything. So people say, well, what about business? Well, it's only when you are alive that you can do your business. And we also said, look, it has a greater impact even on our economy. The truth of the matter today is that we don't have artisans anymore in Nigeria. Artisans, you want to lay tiles, people are coming from neighboring countries. So is that the future that we want to portray? So the essence is we have, Lagos, for example, had 17 of those skill centers. We have 5 technical schools. You'll be lucky to get people to actually, we are partnering with Eliza, the top of the line, teaching people on how to do real mechanic work. So the reality is we must get our children. So it's not everybody that will go to university, we know that. But let us train our kids so that they can really earn good work using their hands. And that Okada is taking that away from our children. So the reality today is a lot of people don't know how to ride it. They are becoming a menace to themselves and to the society at large. So Lagos State government must act. It's the responsible thing to do.
Is it true then that you endorsed some companies who came forward to run some of these motorcycle business, and at the end of the day, because there are pictures of the government endorsing them or taking pictures of them when they came into town?
No. It's not true. It's not true. So everybody that wants to pay a courtesy visit can pay a courtesy visit to the governor. The governor and the government is for the people. So they actually came, visited, but that's not an endorsement. They came to discuss a business. And we told it clearly that, look, there is a law regulating against Okada in Lagos. So as an investor, you must understand the law of the society and the norms of that society. So there is not a single letter. I mean, this is something that can be shown that says endorsed. No. Nobody endorsed anybody. They came visiting like a lot of other companies have come visiting. And then, of course, they are living in Lagos. Of course, we must accept everybody that want to come. So, but that is not an endorsement. It's just a courtesy visit. They explained what they wanted to do. And we said, well, for us, given the law that exists, that we intend to implement, we must know that we will be limiting. So we didn't take it away from every part of the state because, again, of the data that we have. And remember, the most populous areas of the state are not even affected. The most populous local government in Lagos is Alimosho, followed by Mushin, followed by Koshofe, followed by Oshodi Solo. It's not even restricted in those areas. So people can do their business. All we are saying is don't ply the major road, don't ply the bridges. It's just not safe. And then it's a way for criminals to get out. Now, I'm not saying everybody that rides Okada is a criminal. No, that's not. But there are pockets of criminals that have used that means to terrorize these people of Lagos State.
A lot of people will wonder why this was left to this moment, because for it to have become a security menace in the state.
Well, our government came in 260 days ago. Okay, so I can't talk about what happened before then. But you will also understand that Okada was restricted during Governor Fashola's, I'm sure you know, on 475 roads. So the same reasons that's applicable then applies now. So, like I said, we are 260 days. We've looked at the data. The reality is, it's not it's not a popular decision. It's not easy decision. We had almost 8 security meetings on this issue. Extended security meetings. We look at it. We look at the data. We took even all the military personnel, the police, everybody in the security. We went to our ESCO chamber to look at data. This is where this is. This is where this is. And it is clear to us that if we don't stop this, the security of people in Lagos State cannot be guaranteed. So it's about security. It's about safety. And that's what we did.
I'm very sure you probably would have seen a lot of people. There is a popular saying of OTREC. People are having to go by on foot to wherever their destinations are. The question is, what are the alternatives? If you take away all of this, what have you provided to alleviate the
So you will notice that immediately that happens, there are about 65 buses that we actually push out. Lagos State government just pushed out another 14 ferries. So we must also use our waterways. Now, we are not saying waterways is everywhere, but where it is, we must be able to use it. The truth of the matter is, Lagos State occupies only 0.4% of the landmass of Nigeria, but we house 10% of the population. So the density is high. So that's a statement of geography. 30% of that landmass that is so small is water. So that's what God has given us. We can't change it. So the reality is we must now see what is the best way. So, for example, we are doing a BRT from Bolade to Katangwa. It's about almost 14, 15 kilometers. That will be populated very soon. It's not finished. All the tunnels, all the terminals and the rest are being built. But we are hoping by April we'll be able to finish that. So the essence is to be able to move people in a safe and secure way. Okay, and you know what is interesting? Nigerians are very innovative and very smart. Where I live, there used to be Okada and the Keke Marua and all those tricycles. But today, what I see, there are many, many buses. Private people providing it as a means. So there whenever there is a change, it's natural for us to criticize, to be non-reactive, We don't want change because we get comfortable. But sometimes change is very good. And I'm sure that this is a change that is actually very good, because if we save life, so now it's just about 3 weeks old. The data from General Hospital based on across is now just 7. So let's
From
wait
28.
from 28. So if we save 21 lives, who can tell me that is not important?
But the alternatives you provided,
Yes.
is it across all the routes in Lagos?
Not yet. It's not covering everywhere yet, but we get there.
Okay, let's take a breather. But when we come back, some of these people that are now out of jobs, where are they? Are you able to track them? Allow the deputy governor to answer some of those questions and some of those that you are sending to us via our social media platforms on the issue of traffic security in Lagos. Amotekun is he in Lagos also? He probably will be answering those questions when we return from the break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. If you live in Lagos or you do business in Lagos, one way or the other, something in Lagos impacts your life, even if you live several kilometers away. And so we're discussing issues relating to the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. So now the government says over the last 3 weeks or so, there are restriction on motorcycle and tricycle in several routes in Lagos. A lot of Lagosians are reacting to these on Twitter, on Facebook, on WhatsApp. In fact, there are a series of comments, things as hashtag #OTREK, and people sharing what their views are. But at the underlying statement that the deputy governor, who is a guest on the program tonight, is making is the action is fundamentally a security situation or security related. Let's continue our conversation with the Deputy Governor of Lagos, Mr. Femi Hamzat. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for
A lot of people are talking about the fact that maybe they didn't know all of what has happened or the reasons. They're just getting to understand that this thing is fundamentally a security issue. But I wanted to ask this fair hike on taxis applying some of these routes, because I guess some people are taking chances now that they have the opportunity, and also some areas where the tricycles are also restricted, people are also complaining. Are you looking into managing the situation that innocent people don't suffer a double jeopardy?
You know, I said that before we took this decision, we met a lot of stakeholders. One of those stakeholders is National Union of Road Transport Workers, NURTW. Immediately, the day after, so Monday 4th, we actually called the chairman of NURT that, first of all, there are some people that are stopping those vehicles deployed from loading. So some people. So we called them and said, look, because we held meetings with everybody involved before even this ban. So, and one of the things we clearly spell out is the fact that nobody should take advantage of the people. And so we've called them. If we are asking people, we are going around as a matter of fact. And what will happen is very severe. If in any area we see people that actually act on a consistent basis and we see it, the chairman or whoever is responsible as NIT will be suspended. So that let them take control of people that they run. So those buses come out from certain garages. People are supposed to manage that garage. So if people are actually overcharging, whoever is responsible for that garage will be dealt with. It's as simple as that. You cannot take advantage of people just because of what we just did, which is a good thing.
There are areas that are referred to as Okada only routes in Lagos. Some areas within Ikeja and Ekusi area. Those areas you hardly will see commercial or public transport take you through those areas. What are you doing in those special routes?
So, like everything else in life, there is no solution that solves all the problems. But you look at what is good for the common people, okay? So if you are able to solve 8 out of 10 problems by a solution, then that is a joy to be equally good. So we are not saying that there will be no issue. So Lagos, one of the things we are doing is to take this advantage. We are bringing in 2,000 new taxis. So, but it's also not to just bring in a vehicle. It's also to say, can we actually assemble those vehicles here so that people get jobs? So, because we don't just want to bring anything and then say, oh, it's okay to create jobs for people outside the country, but what about our own people here? So, we are looking at that. That's something that we've started well because of this. So very soon that will start to materialize. So it's even deepening the
How
economy.
soon? Sorry.
Well, it's tough because there are many partners that are involved, and people have to get to their board. So some of it's agreed in principle, but in terms of they have to meet board and so on and so forth. So part of the things they ask for, of course, is 50 hectares of land in Lagos to do the assembly, which we have identified, located, and will be. So surveys has to be given to them. So, but the essence is what is sustainable for our country. So it's not just we can't just be fighting fire as a people. Why don't we solve a problem and give us something that build a resilient city?
Right.
And that is the essence of here. The essence is we can say Okada is not a job that everybody wants their children to do. That's the reality. We know the economic situation forces a lot of people to do that, but we give them better alternatives. Let us get people trained to do welding. Let us. I was telling somebody outside when we were building the Lekki Link Bridge, the contractor told us they could not find welders in this country. They wanted to go to a foreign country to bring welders. They needed 70. We stopped that project for 6 months. We delayed it for 6 months in order to train. We said, no, never. It's not going to happen. The governor then was Governor Fashola. I said, never. That's not going to happen. And we trained 70 welders who finished those projects. Do you know what? Those welders started after the completion of the bridge. Do you know the salary that Shell and Chevron were paying? 700,000 a month. So let us design things that is good for our people. So all these knee-jerk approaches cannot save this country.
All right. Let's look at, I have loads and loads of other issues because it's not every day that we have the Deputy Governor of Lagos and Lagos Governor to talk to us on some of these issues. So let me quickly get you talking on some other issues. For example, quickly, maybe if I can wrap up on the issue of Okada, so we'll move into some other issues. Some of these people that, in quote, out of jobs because of the restriction, the fear is that if you see some of these people, you wonder where they live. The amount of people, the number of these people, the shanties and the shacks that you see around in some areas in Lagos. Are you concerned about the threats these kind of out of job people could be to Lagos?
Well, so we have master plans, we have fiscal planning rules and regulations. So you will notice that. So in certain areas, we are going there to create right of ways and so on. So if you build a shanty on a right of way, ultimately when development gets, you'll be moved. So, but at the same time, one of the things we are doing is, okay, these are young people trying to survive. So the essence is not to punish anybody. The essence is to say what is good for the common people, what is good for everybody. So the essence is we have houses that we, so rent to own and all those things. So we are ramping them up to make sure that at least we can make these things available for Lagosians. So we have programs that will help people. I just talk about 2,000. So we'll be getting 2,000 taxis to reflect taxis. So some people will do that. So whoever is interested. Remember, we are also doing all sorts of programs in Lagos. So Ministry of Agric is doing Agric Yes, which is a youth empowerment scheme for young people that have to, and they have residents in Araga. Araga is close to Ekpe. They have residents, they live there, they have their farm. So government is doing all this. So government has the Employment Trust Fund. If you have an idea that you think can work, you go and present. Over 5,000 young people have gotten grants, some have gotten loan of. So we want our young people to access this and not try to see what can actually lead to their death.
Are you a bit, well, it's a concern also, but is Lagos tracking some of these loads and loads of unemployed people that you see every day to get them engaged? And if not, are you worried about the consequence of having a number of...
No, you know that one of the things for us is to create enabling environment for private sector to create more jobs. Government by itself cannot create enough jobs for everybody. So that's why it's important. It's important for us to even take this type of decisions. Make it easier for business people to run their businesses. So that they can create more jobs in this environment. So to answer your question, of course, yes. So that's why we have Lagos State Residential Registration Agency, LASRA, that is scattered across the 57, that takes data. Our challenge is a lot of people coming on a daily basis. So the goalpost keeps moving. But in terms of data, of course, and that's why we encourage everybody to, you must, as a citizen, as a resident of Lagos, you must register. Where do you live? It's to allow us to plan. Whatever you cannot measure, you really cannot manage it. It's as simple as that. So that's one of the things that we are also pushing. Let people register with LASRA so that we know. In some cases, do you know that in some cases in our primary school, we have 7 kids in the classroom in Lagos Island? In some cases. So we need to know. So that maybe those area of the state doesn't need new schools. But some areas actually have like 60. So that if we don't have this data, it's difficult for us to plan appropriately.
Right. I have about 4 or 5 questions. I'd like you, Deputy Governor, to help me hit them. One is the growing concern over traffic in Lagos. It seems everywhere you step your feet, there's traffic, and it takes you long hours to get out of that traffic. What is the government doing?
So one of the things that you can see is that, when you solve a problem, you might create another one. So if you look at Aja, the first roundabout, the second roundabout, and Abraham Adesoya, we are removing the roundabout, we are turning them into, we are signalizing them, expanding the road. 3 consecutive. The idea is this.
You're doing the same in around
Allen Avenue. We are doing that around Ijegun, Yanopaja, and the rest. So it's spread across. So that will defeat traffic. The essence is this, though. Should we do it sequentially, 3 months wait, and spread the pain, or do we just do it one time? So we agreed that let's just do it so that we can free. Like I was saying, we want to maintain the bridge link. Bonnet Camp, for example, that bridge, we need to maintain it. So, but we said, let's wait so that we don't compound the traffic problem, but the bridge must be maintained. So it's a chicken and egg issue. So some of this infrastructure, you need to renew them, you need to rebuild them. We are doing all sorts of road constructions now, but that will lead to traffic. But it's better because...
should Lagosians be expecting around a period of time that this kind of traffic situation will ease?
So it will ease out later, but remember, we are now in the dry season. So during the rainy season, we said that we cannot aggressively do road, but this is the dry season. So this is a period for us to quickly move out, push a lot of the roads so that we can give people relief.
All right.
But, as you are doing it, there will be some pains here and there.
Please, help me. I like you to talk on this. You have a lot of business interest in Lagos, and you see some of the waterways, how filthy some of these waterways are in Lagos. And you compare to places you travel to. If you have a lot of business men and women of international interest coming into Lagos, it's embarrassing, isn't it, sometimes?
Well, I mean, it's not good for it to be dirty, but it's not even the waterways. So that's why we said you cannot drop. So because whatever you drop on the road ends somewhere. And Lagos, like I said, is 1/3 of water. Right? So 1/3 of Lagos is water. So ultimately, it ends in the waterways. So it's not that people actually go and drop it in the water in most cases. It's because they drop it somewhere. But ultimately, all the canals, all the gutters, everything ends in the creeks and lagoons. And that is what happens. So, and one of the things we are doing is to enhance cleanliness even at home. That's why we are distributing, going to churches, mosques, and so on, to distribute the bags so that you can separate and sort your garbage. So what we are saying to citizens is, work with the PSP in your community. Let them carry the garbage. It's not for you to carry it. Let them carry the garbage and take it to the landfill. That way it doesn't end up in the wrong places. So, but it's something that we ultimately clean out. So we now have Loma who are now cleaning on our waterways. But we need to get the landfills and the rest in good shape so that we can stop the leaching and so on and so forth. The moment we are able to do that, the waterways is next. We will clean up because we are, as you know, about 3-4 days ago, we bought 14 new boats to go on our waterways. So we cannot expend such kind of money and then the waterway is faulty. Right. So
yeah, let's close on these notes. I'm going to ask you the interest of Lagos in Amotekun. Is Lagos on board? What is implementation like? Yeah. Are you domesticating the laws? We understand that other states are now getting to
No,
their
so that
governors?
we don't need to domesticate. In fact, as a matter of fact, it was Lagos. Lagos State has Lagos Neighborhood Watch. The Lagos Neighborhood Watch, it's our local, means we have about 5,000 men and women that gives police intelligence and so on and so forth, that works across the state. They are local people living in that community, so they understand Lagos. So they work with police. So Amotekun is the same thing. It's a framework that allows all the states in Southwest to share information. Remember, about 3 years ago, when our kids were kidnapped, they ended up in Ondo. So we will be stupid if we don't relate with ourselves. So Amotekun is a framework that allows us. So Lagos, of course, is in support. We are sharing information. It's a sharing information template across the Southwest.
The Lagos Deputy Governor, there's a series of questions coming here and there, but we need to close the conversation. But I must say thank you so much for coming on tonight. The Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Obafemi Hamzat, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts
you very
and
much,
clearing some of these issues.
Thank you for having me.